Tonight, public display of prayer honored.
No one should ever have to choose between living their faith and their job.
A football coach fired for silent post-game prayers on the 50-yard line, now vindicated by today's Supreme Court decision upholding his First Amendment rights. Plus,
women in almost half the country could see their access to abortion severely limited.
The trigger laws across America that ban or restrict abortion in the wake of the High Court decision overturning Roe v. Wade. All this and more tonight on Faith Nation. Another landmark victory for religious liberty handed down by the Supreme Court. Welcome to Faith Nation in Washington. I'm John Jessup. Well, for the second time in as many weeks, the High Court today delivered another major religious liberty ruling, this time protecting a high school football coach's ability to pray on school grounds in a case that rewrites decades of precedent on the role of church and state. CBN's Caitlin Burke is at the Supreme Court. Caitlin, what's the crux of this case?
John, in Kennedy versus Bremerton School District, the case basically dealt with a public school football coach who was fired for praying on school property after football games. Both sides argued that this case comes down to the First Amendment. Coach Kennedy's attorneys citing the free speech and free exercise clauses to protect his right to pray, while the school district pointed to the Establishment Clause to prohibit his prayer, saying that it could come across as endorsing a religion. In his majority opinion, Justice Neil Gorsuch said these three clauses were never meant to conflict with each other, writing, quote, "The fear of offending the Constitution's Establishment Clause does not require the government to single out private religious speech or special disfavor. The Constitution and the best of our traditions counsel mutual respect and tolerance, not censorship and suppression, for religious and non-religious views alike." Now, in her dissenting opinion, Justice Sotomayor accused the court of focusing almost entirely on the free exercise clause, elevating Coach Kennedy's right to religious expression over, quote, society's interest in protecting the separation between church and state. John?
Caitlin, what about the question of whether Coach Kennedy was praying in his capacity as a government employee or as a private citizen? What was the ruling there?
So Justice Gorsuch said this was clearly a case of private speech, not government speech. He pointed to the fact that whenever Coach Kennedy prayed, he was speaking not in his job as coach. So that means he wasn't instructing players. He wasn't talking strategy or on-field performance or any other topic that the school district paid him to talk about. John?
All right, Caitlin Burke at an active and busy Supreme Court. Thank you so much, Caitlin. Well, with us now is Joe Kennedy, the coach in that case, and his attorney, Jeremy Dice with First Liberty. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being with us tonight. Coach, let's start with you. When you heard the ruling come down in your favor today, talk to us about your reaction, and do you feel vindicated after this ruling?
Absolutely. It was a big shock at the beginning, where you're trying to process what does this all mean. And as my attorneys were explaining to me that you did absolutely nothing wrong and that we were right and that, the First Amendment is live and well. So I did my part, and thank God that I had all the support and everybody around me that got me through this.
Coach, it's nice to have attorneys there to help read through the legal rulings. I want to ask you about the role of your faith, how your faith has sustained you during this process. I know it's been a long legal process to get to today. From your perspective, can you talk about how your case will affect other coaches, teachers, and people considered government employees?
It should affect them in a very positive way of them not having to hide who they are or worried about losing their job just because they're a person of faith. And it doesn't matter what kind of faith you have, or even if you have no faith. The First Amendment applies equally across the board to everybody. So I think it's a wonderful thing for all Americans. Every single public school employee and everyone in America should be celebrating that, hey, now we have something on the books that actually puts us in the right direction of, like the Supreme Court guy said, of, hey, we all need to get along and play well.
And Jeremy, to you, the school district's argument pitted the First Amendment's Establishment Clause against the free speech and free exercise clauses. Jeremy, why didn't that defense work?
Well, I think it's because the freedom of religion has been so robust in this country that when you go through the schoolhouse gates, students certainly, but also teachers and coaches do not have to shed those constitutional rights when they walk through those gates. And what I think we saw Justice Gorsuch say so well today is that you cannot use, school districts cannot use the Establishment Clause to censor the Free Exercise Clause, as they've done so many times, too many times in the last many years now. Instead, when a coach is engaged in a private act of religion for 15 to 20 seconds on the 50-yard line, like Coach Kennedy was, that's something to celebrate and to welcome on campus rather than censor it or drive it out as if there's some sort of pestilence on campus that needs to be removed lest it infect everybody else. Instead, the First Amendment means that people of faith can be people of faith. They don't need to choose between the job that they love and their faith to stay employed.
Jeremy, can you walk us through the case origins again? I believe it's worked its way to the Supreme Court and then got bumped back down and worked its way back. Can you walk us through that?
Yeah, in 2015, Coach Kennedy was suspended after praying for 15 to 20 seconds by himself at the 50-yard line. We filed that lawsuit. We lost at the district court, appealed that to the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals and lost there as well. Appealed that to the Supreme Court of the United States, and they said that we needed to provide a little bit more information. So we went back down to the district court, lost there again, went back to the Ninth Circuit, lost again, and then appealed finally to the Supreme Court of the United States for the second time, and this time we won. And what has happened now is that the court has declared that the Bremerton School District has engaged in the discrimination against Coach Kennedy and has directed the district court to enter summary judgment on behalf of Coach Kennedy, which means that this case is now over. The Supreme Court has declared that the school district has violated the Constitution. They have violated the civil rights of Coach Kennedy. And the thing that we asked for, which is very simple, that he be a coach again and be allowed to pray after the football game on a knee for 15 to 20 seconds on the 50-yard line, that's the relief to which he's entitled. So we're looking forward to getting Coach back out on that field so that he can coach those guys again. And you'll find him after the whistle blows at the 50-yard line, taking a knee in private prayer, just as Jeremy, the Supreme Court said he can.
Real quickly here, I want to get in one more question for Coach, but can you answer what does this ruling in a wider sense mean for religious liberty, and does it effectively do away with the so-called lemon tests, which in the past were seen by critics as justification to censor religious speech?
Yeah, I think it's very clear that the lemon test is now no longer good law, that instead we're going to look at the unique facts and history, the circumstances that has welcomed religion in the public square throughout our country's history. Back in 2018, we won a case there that said the same thing, and the Supreme Court has simply reaffirmed that right on the school campus.
Joe, we only have about a half minute left. Talk to us about how your faith has grown through this years-long ordeal.
Yeah, my faith has grown so much. Not just in God and the closeness of that, but the faith through my family. We've become a lot tighter as a family as Christians, and also everybody in the nation. It's just great to see how God works in these ways. And I mean, it's simply incredible. I mean, he's a man.
Well, Joe, Jeremy, thank you so much for being with us this evening. I know it's been a busy day. There's been a lot of celebrating in your camp, and we're grateful for your time.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Well, last week's decision from the court still playing out today as America redraws the lines around legal abortion. With nationwide protests, Right to Life organizations are capitalizing on the effort to protect women and unborn babies. CBN's Brody Carter joins us now with a look at what's next for their movement. Brody.
John, the fallout from Friday's Supreme Court decision could linger for years now, as it's up to individual states to dictate the future of abortion. Protesters are going toe-to-toe nationwide.
We won't go back! We won't go back!
In Washington, Democrats vow to fight the Supreme Court's ruling, while Republicans look to the future of an America without a federal law allowing abortion.
Because the Supreme Court's decision overturning Roe v. Wade, correcting that flawed decision, finally allows states and Congress to protect life in ways that we never were able to for the last 50 years.
13 states had already moved toward restricting the procedure with so-called trigger laws ahead of any Supreme Court decision. Louisiana, one of those states, will have to wait because a New Orleans judge blocked its trigger law. Now Congress is playing a game of tug-of-war as Democrats focus on passing the Women's Health Protection Act, which would legislate legal abortion nationwide.
49 years ago, they said no. Yeah. They told us it was over. They told us to shut up and live with the killing of children. You all didn't give up, did you?
The next pro-life piece of legislation could be the Providing for Life Act, sponsored by Florida Senator Marco Rubio. If passed, it would pave the way for tax exemptions and health care options for expecting mothers and their unborn babies. Meanwhile, Democrats are using the SCOTUS ruling as a rally cry for the midterms, vowing to protect abortion rights where they can by expanding access to the day-after pill, providing abortion education, and even exploring options to open abortion clinics on federal lands in states restricting abortion. Monday, a new poll found that 78% of Democrats said they are more likely to vote in this year's midterms in response to the ruling. Only 54% of Republicans said they would do the same. Dozens of states are expected to tighten abortion access as a result of Friday's ruling. Pro-life supporters tell me the best way that you can help support this fight is financially through an organization that you know and trust. John, back to you.
All right, thank you, Brody. Well, that ruling sending ripples around the globe. After weighing in, calling the decision to overturn Roe a tragic error, President Biden has turned his focus to foreign policy. Mr. Biden attending the G7 meeting of world leaders in Germany, presenting a united front on both global economic uncertainty and Russia's ongoing war with Ukraine. The United States announced a ban on Russian gold imports to target Moscow. President Biden calling Russia's latest attack hitting a residential neighborhood in Kyiv and striking a kindergarten barbarism. From Germany, the president then will head to Spain to meet with NATO allies. NATO is increasing the size of its rapid reaction forces to 300,000 troops, up from 40,000 soldiers who can currently deploy. Vandalism, arson, and fears of what could follow for pro-life organizations in the aftermath of the Roe decision. Next on Faith Nation. And welcome back. One of the casualties of overturning Roe versus Wade, pregnancy crisis centers now under attack. Since the leak of the draft opinion in early May, pro-life centers around the country have reported at least 40 attacks, from suspected arson to shattered windows and graffiti. And now police in Virginia are investigating property damage and vandalism of a crisis center over the weekend in Lynchburg. According to police, security footage shows 4 masked individuals vandalizing the facility. Well, here with us now is Susan Campbell, Executive Director, Blue Ridge Pregnancy Center in Lynchburg. Susan, welcome, and thank you for making time for us tonight at a very difficult time. Susan, can you start off by talking to us about the vandalism at your center? How much damage was done, and are there any leads about who did it and whether an arrest might be imminent?
Yes, thank you so much for having me. At this time, we don't have any leads on who did it, although they left their stamp of their mission was Jane's Revenge, anarchist group that left a bunch of spray paint all over our buildings, our slate sidewalks, and brickwork. They took crowbars to 10 to 12 windows and 3 to 4 of our doors. Just wreaked havoc in a matter of about 6 minutes. We had excellent security footage that captured all of them, but they were masked and under hoodies, so almost impossible to identify.
So much damage in so little time. Can you describe the level of concern about safety for your staff and clients, or for anyone who holds pro-life views and may be seeking alternatives to abortion?
Sure. We live in a wonderful community, a strong community that has supported us since 1999. We see pro-choice women every day that come in here and are bathed in love and compassion and offered hope. We're able to sit down and peer counsel them and give them options. We educate them and equip them to be the parents that they don't feel led that they're able to be. And we offer them all the resources that they would ever need to not have a financial burden of any sort. So we're used to seeing the opposition. We're used to seeing the opposite side, but we often are able to bathe them in love and hope and offer them a cheerleading squad to help them through one of the most difficult decisions of their life. And if and when they do not feel ready to be a parent, we have adoption planning in place, and we are able to refer to a wonderful adoption agency in the area who also has a satellite office at our center. So for
Susan,
quite a while.
We only have about a minute left, and I've got a two-part quick question for you. Since Friday's decision, have you seen an uptick in interest in the services you provide? And then secondly, you know, despite the decision over abortion and the division, both sides agree that women now need more care and support than ever. Is this a space that pregnancy resource centers can serve as a bridge for society?
Absolutely. And prior to our relocation, we were growing exponentially. We live in a world where resources and education and support are absolutely paramount. They have to be there. They have to be in the community to invest in the future families that live here. Our center was doing that. When we relocated to this larger facility, we were able to expand our services, and we were seeing a strong desire and need in the area.
All right, Susan Campbell, the Executive Director of Blue Ridge Pregnancy Center in Lynchburg, thank you so much for making time to be with us tonight.
Thank you.
And best wishes. We'll be back right after the break. Well, after nearly 50 years, the Supreme Court has overturned the case that gave women a constitutional right to end their pregnancies. But the battle over abortion in the United States is far from over. Jennifer Wishon explains what's next in the fight to save unborn lives.
It's now up to the states to decide whether to allow, ban, or restrict abortions, not to mention so-called self-managed abortions women are having in their homes. As has always been the case with this issue, emotions are running high.
We are en route to Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh's house.
Protest outside the homes of Supreme Court justices. A California man indicted for attempting to murder Justice Brett Kavanaugh. And outside the court, a battle of wills, both day
Abortion is murder!
Abortion is oppression!
And night.
Pack the courts! Pack the courts!
Former First Lady Michelle Obama urging abortion supporters to double down, get even more organized, as pro-life groups like Live Action urge supporters to remain vigilant, warning work to make abortion unthinkable must shift urgently to your local community. Your backyard is where the fight is heading, setting up a patchwork of abortion bans and enhanced access.
Women in almost half the country could see their access to abortion severely limited.
26 states either have or will trigger laws that ban or restrict abortion, with a number of liberal states taking the opposite approach.
Protections for persons receiving and providing productive health care services.
Connecticut is working to expand the pool of people who can perform abortions, and states across the country are digging in. Planned Parenthood, the country's largest abortion provider, plans to boost access at clinics in states where abortion will remain legal, like Colorado and Illinois, two states that border places where abortion will become illegal.
We need to be defending our children, unborn or born. We need to be defending them. We need to be supporting them. We don't need to be killing them.
Some activists say without the protection of Roe, abortionists everywhere will fear legal action.
I think that this will have the kind of chilling effect that doctors just simply will not perform this procedure really under any set of circumstances because they don't want to get dragged into court.
New York's governor has signed a law expanding legal protections for people seeking and performing abortions. For now, there aren't enough votes in the U.S. Senate to make abortion rights the law of the land, although pressure is on from the highest levels.
We have to legislate it. We have to make sure we pass legislation making it a law that is the federal government says this is how it works.
Pro-life activists are oftentimes painted as extremists by the left, yet there is a growing chorus in the Democratic Party to allow abortion without restriction, which is out of touch with most Americans. According to a Wall Street Journal survey, 48% of voters favor banning abortions after 15 weeks of pregnancy. 43% are opposed. The Guttmacher Institute estimates each year as many as 63,000 abortions are performed after a baby reaches 15 weeks in the womb. There's also a form of abortion growing in popularity that many state lawmakers have yet to address: abortion pills. That's medicine sent to pregnant women for so-called self-managed chemical abortions.
We're seeing these articles pop up over and over again with how to do yourself abortions. These are dangerous.
Today, more than half of all abortions are done by pills. And depending on how laws are written, women could legally take abortion pills in states that ban or severely limit abortion. Since the FDA approved the drug in 2000, at least 26 women have died. Some 500 more faced life-threatening complications. If it wasn't already, abortion has been catapulted to a top issue in state elections across the country. Candidates will now be forced to answer questions about when life begins and whether any restrictions should be placed on abortion. The question remains, which side of the electorate will be most motivated to show up at the polls? Jennifer Wishon, CBN News.
All right, thank you, Jennifer. Coming up, from the streets to the kitchen, one woman finds her purpose in helping the homeless when we come back. And finally tonight, homelessness is on the rise across the country. The crisis no more real than in places like the Bronx in New York. But there is help, and in some cases, it's coming from those who experienced it themselves, like Sobera Almonte, who at age 20 was pregnant and experiencing homelessness after an assault that landed her in the hospital and then a homeless shelter. But she eventually overcame being unhoused, crediting help from God. And she now has made it her mission to help others in similar situations.
I want to tell everybody that there's a lot of surveyors out there waiting for an opportunity to grab it and embrace.
Almonte is raising 4 kids and getting her college degree. On top of that, she and her husband still make it a priority to serve, making time to cook meals for those in need at least once a week. And what a way to give back. Congratulations to her and her family. That's going to do it for Faith Nation. Have a great night.